Salutations, my name is Daniel Olson. Today I want to talk about a case that happened back in the 80s. A sad, disgusting, and otherwise depressing case. If you read my community post, then you would know that I would much rather be talking about the Fraulein foreclosures and all the scandal and investigations that came from that. I am talking about this case because I said I would, because I am a man of my word. Now, many of these events that transpire in the story aren't actually all that clear. And I apologize in advance if I get anything wrong, which I more than likely will. However, with that being said, grab yourself a cup of water, comfort blanket if you need it. Anything else you need, go ahead and pause the video. I'll still be here, I promise. Have you gotten what you needed? Great. Let's get started. Jason Cooper was born on the 2nd of April, 1954, in Baxter, West Virginia. His mother actually passed away when giving birth to him. I don't actually know them. I don't actually know all that much about his childhood or early life. Only two things are sure, and the rest are inferences. Jason Cooper was raised by a single father, a World War II veteran who seemingly never left the battlefield. When he wasn't being his when he wasn't being an absent father, he was either being abusive or teaching all the wrong lessons. One night, on Jason's 13th birthday, he would actually end up taking his father's life in self-defense. Due to his age and the circumstance, he never went to prison. Self-defense was proven. It was also proven that Jason Cooper was not a danger to himself or others. Which, yeah, maybe he wasn't at 13. However, as later events would prove, he definitely became a danger to other people later in life. With his father no longer alive and no other immediate or distant family for him to go to, Jason had to try to find a way to support himself and get a job. He tried getting on delivering the local newspaper, however, that fell through. He wasn't really old enough to work any of the factories in town or the mines. He would pick up the odd job here and there, however, he didn't really make enough. Being homeless also didn't help. He eventually had to go into business for himself. What I have neglected to mention so far is that Jason had a very serious interest in taxidermy. From his own prison confessions, the interest started 3 years earlier when he was 10 years old, and his dog had passed away from an illness. The dog was the one thing that tethered him or gave him comfort through his dad's abuse. He couldn't really figure out how to cope with the dog's loss, and his father, having one moment of fatherlyhood, um, took the dog to get taxidermied. This sparked something in young Jason, something that would take a darker turn later in his life. Jason Cooper opens his taxidermy business. He didn't have any official permits or nothing, however, everyone in the neighborhood felt bad enough for him, nobody reported him, and the police in the area let him keep the business open. Now, taxidermy isn't all that profitable, which is where half his namesake comes in. He would offer to make crude dolls resembling family members, pets, or even pop culture characters. I say crude to describe the resources they're made out of. For everything demented and messed up about him, he was really good at making dolls. So, it has happened sometimes in history where you have a very talented person, they just become a bad person as well. As I stated earlier, not much is known about this time. Until 4 years later, Jason is 17 years old and in a relationship with a girl who is vacationing in his town with her family. Now, if you think that this is about to take a positive spin, you're wrong. It is not. You'll see what I mean here later. They date for about 5 weeks before Jason makes her his first victim. According to Jason, they got into some big argument over a family going back home and the relationship ending. Apparently, the argument kept heating up and she struck Jason first, which I don't know if I believe, but whatever. I haven't included the girl's name because at the time that the crime occurred, she was only 14 years old. That's right. He was 17, she was 14. Not much a difference in math, but a huge difference in maturity level. No matter who struck who first, there should have been a legal issue here way before that point. It also doesn't matter who hit who first, because he murdered her anyway. Strangulation. According to his confession, he panicked and immediately tried to dispose of her body. He would get that opportunity 3 days later when he would dump her body in the quarry. He was actually almost caught on the way there. Cop pulled him over because he was driving all over the road. Since this was his first traffic infraction, he let him off with a warning. The cop, who was questioned in court, revealed that he didn't check the smell because he assumed that it was something related to his taxidermy business. Her body not even being found until March 25th, 2000. I don't know why it took so long. Maybe it was permits or some red tape. Maybe it was just actually that difficult to search the quarry. It seems to me that during that time, a worker at the quarry would have found her body, but what do I know? Jason Cooper would remain in town for an extra month. You'd think he'd be a prime suspect in his girlfriend, nope, his grooming victim's disappearance. Well, therein lies the issue. Nobody knew about their relationship, not even the young girl's parents. You want to know the cherry on top? Somebody else was actually blamed, arrested, and convicted. Marcus Polo, which I assume was not his real name. However, this was the name given to him by the media. He was a serial child murderer who was traveling around the United States around the same time. He happened to stop into Baxter at the wrong time. Well, I guess it's good that this Marco Polo guy got arrested anyway. Uh, so he stopped at Baxter at the right time. He received the death penalty for his previous murders and actually died on death row on November 22nd, 1972, at the old age of 68. I think he lived too long, in my opinion, but I'm not here to give my opinion. So let's get back to the story. Jason Cooper would take some time to reflect and realize that after the initial panic faded away, he actually liked how it felt. According to the transcripts of the interrogation and his signed confession, the one thing that stuck with him about his first murder, he said, "I liked the way she looked." Gross. Because based on what happened later, I fear he meant that a little too literally. It is estimated and assumed that Jason Cooper committed up to 27 murders between his first one in 1971 and his capture in 1986, most of them being young girls or young women. Now, not all of these have been proven. He didn't really follow an MO until much later. He also didn't really leave behind any calling card or notifiable signs. There wasn't much to differentiate from any other act of violence that transpires. However, most experts today say the number is closer to 16. That was the number used in the documentary Glass Eyes, Porcelain Skin, the story of the Dollmaker, that I used in as a secondary source for this video. However, they did bring up the potential other victims. The documentary is something I highly recommend for anybody looking to find out more information about the case. They go into far more detail about Jason himself than I ever could. I would now like to pivot this video away from the horrible man Jason Cooper turned out to be, and just for a moment try to shed light on some of his victims. Of course, there's the unnameable girl from 71. However, there are a few more we have more concrete details for. Marcia Adams, a 25-year-old school teacher who was hiking through the woods in 74. She was the mother of two young boys and a loving wife to her husband. However, her family did not even find out until 2 decades later. Fortunately, that's the way most of these stories went. Lillian Jennings, a woman who made the mistake of trusting her life to a man who only wanted to end it. A woman who fought tooth and nail to get out of her abusive religious household and to emancipate from her parents, only to have her life cut tragically short by this evil, evil man. I could go on and on about the victims, and they do deserve to have their stories told. However, I don't think I could handle recapping all of these tragic and heartbreaking events. The last two barely got a paragraph. When I was writing this, I had to take a break and cry. So if I went over all the victims, I would probably not leave my room for a month, and I have to go to work. I do want to talk about the last and final attempted victim, Julia Roth, born on September 10th, 1968. Being raised as the daughter of French immigrants, she had to make her own way in America, and make her own way she did. She was very popular in a school growing up. Julia actually got her Julia actually got her name from the TV show host Julia Child, who her parents watched on The French Chef. My guess is it reminded them of home. They actually left France during World War II and came to America. Now, Julia was always destined for the stage, taking part in many of her school plays growing up and starring in many of the public broadcast movies that were going on at the time. Most of them just being PSAs and other boring tall town hall mandate stuff. Mm. I remember one time my school did a PSA movie about responsible driving. They did a mock crash, and it was. I remember. I don't remember it at all, but I remember it happening. In February of 1986, Julia Roth moved to Hollywood and tried to realize her dreams of being an actress, booking an audition for the blockbuster action movie Biceps and Blessings, which was a movie about a small town preacher whose daughter is kidnapped by a biker gang named Los Coyotes. The aforementioned preacher then has to save his daughter with the power of God and big muscles on his side. The preacher being played by Hulk Hogan, because of course he would. The character even sharing the last name Hogan. Maybe it was part of the contract. Julia auditioned for the role of Jacqueline Hogan, the daughter who gets kidnapped, but if you've seen the movie nowadays, you would know that she did not get the part. Phoebe Cates plays Jackie Hogan. The movie went down in history as a cheesy 80s action movie, which means that the critics and academic types hated it. Regular people who watched it, on average, liked it. The movie has a PG-13 rating, so it should be fine to watch with the kids. Now, I haven't seen the movie myself. It's not really my style, so I don't know for sure what's in it or not. Um, for reference, if you are thinking of watching it and might want to watch it with your family, you can look up online or read the age rating in the actual movie. Unfortunately, it seems that the movie was never digitized for streaming. I think the last place I saw it was like a silent store. But maybe if you guys are interested in me doing a movie review, I could go seek it out. Now, enough breaks. Let's get back to the depressing story at hand. After getting rejected from the movie, Julie hit a bad luck streak. She had put everything behind getting this role for the movie. She was actually staying at a Fraulein apartment. See, I told you. See, I do get to talk about it eventually. She got kicked out when she couldn't afford their exorbitant rent rates. If she had been a tenant of Fraulein for a couple more years, she probably could have sued and got a lot of money, but um, that didn't happen. After losing the apartment and she couldn't afford to go back home, she was lost in the streets of Los Angeles, looking for the help of some kind stranger. Now, someone else was driving around that night, looking for someone who was looking for a kind stranger. Jason Cooper picks her up and takes her back to his house, which, no surprise, was half living space, half murder workshop. His MO had evolved. His MO had evolved since he left Baxter. He would either pick up victims off the street, prostitutes, or people in similar scenarios, and take them back to his house, take their life, and then turn them into dolls, turn them into mannequins. Um, he he became quite the mortician. He also was quite the serial dater in the area, which also helped him get more victims. September 9th, 1986, one day before Julia's birthday, she was caught in the crosshairs of Jason Cooper's latest crime spree. But, by some lucky miracle, she survived. Maybe miracle is the wrong word to use considering the other victims didn't get away. Um, Calling it a miracle here feels disrespectful to the people who didn't live. I don't mean it in a disrespectful manner. We don't quite know how she got away, but we do know how the police found Jason. They found him unconscious and tied to a table. During the trial, Jason maintained his innocence, but thankfully he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. However, he would only spend about 10 years. After a dispute with his cellmate proceeded to strangle him, which is a just fate in my opinion. I hope he felt hopeless and scared. Anyway, not here to give my opinion. So, that was the Dollmaker case. I hate my job. Why can't I ever find a happy true crime case to talk about? I don't even know what a happy true crime case would be. Speeding tickets? Jaywalking violations? Maybe I'll find a case one day that doesn't end with me being depressed. Um, I do want to say that I cut a lot out of this video, and that's because I hated this case. The only other video where I've done this, where I've just cut a lot out, was uh, the Sally Williams video that I did. Um, and that case was especially depressing and disgusting. This case I cut out some mentions of disgusting things that I don't want to remember. Um, anyway, point is, I hope I forget all about this case after I'm done with this video. My next video won't be true crime related at all, but it's still sort of relevant. This will be a big video. Estimated runtime is uncertain, so I will be taking another break. I know I just got back and I'm taking another break. I was sick on New Year's. Um, the good side of that is I never had a schedule to begin with. Go figure. Anyway, I gotta go work on that. Maybe if something comes up or I come across a story that sticks in my crawl, I'll make a video about it. But mostly I'm going to be focusing on the bigger video. I know there is a developing case up in Michigan right now. Some kid was burned at a party. Uh, um, I'm very interested to see what the details on that is because I think there was some like fight with this kid and other kids like 2 weeks ago, and then he got burned now in the New Year's party. I'm watching that case, see what comes out about that. But yeah, in the meantime, I've been Daniel Wilson, and I will see you next time. That's not my intro. Do I have an outro? I should really standardize this. Anyway, bye.